In March of 2019, it was Joe Biden asking, "Where's Hunter?" He was ready to announce his third run for president, but Hunter was on a drug and sex binge up and down I-95. That's when he got a call from his mother, Jill. She asked him to come home, and he accepted the invitation.
I walked into the house, bright and homey as always, and immediately saw my 3 daughters. I knew then that something was up. A moment later, I spotted 2 counselors from a rehab center that I'd once gone to in Pennsylvania.
It was an intervention.
Not a chance, I said. My dad suddenly looked terrified. "I don't know what else to do," he cried out. "I'm so scared. Tell me what to do." My flat reply, "Not this."
Joe tightly hugged Hunter, who promised to go to a rehab center in Maryland. But when Hallie dropped him at the door, he never checked in. She drove off, and he Ubered to a motel by the airport.
For the next 2 days, while everybody who had been at my parents' house thought I was safe and sound at the center, I sat in my room and smoked crack that I tucked away in my traveling bag.
In his memoir, Hunter claims he then hopped a plane back to California, checked into an Airbnb, and spent the next month and a half in a, quote, drug-befuddled blur of complete and utter debauchery. His laptop, however, suggests he was still in Delaware. He was certainly there on April 12. That's the day he made a fateful stop at a computer repair store.
My name is John Paul Mac Isaac, and I'm the former owner of the Mac Shop in Wilmington, Delaware. It was Friday, April 12th, 2019, right before I closed, and walked in a gentleman carrying 3 MacBook Pros. I could definitely tell that he was inebriated, and even though at this time I didn't recognize him, he was a bit beyond my visual acuity range. When I asked for his last name, there was a long pause, and he kind of sarcastically added Biden. I had to ask Hunter for his password, and he started laughing. He was like, "You're not really gonna like this."
Mac Isaac told Hunter that one laptop required more work, and he'd contact him when it was fixed. What began as a simple data transfer soon turned troubling.
During my research, there was just so much homemade pornography on his laptop that it was disgusting. It was hard to work through. I tried to keep my blinders on, but the sheer volume of it was astounding.
That wasn't all he noticed.
There was a file called income.pdf. I decided that would be the file that I would open up to verify that the data transfer is actually working. And that's when I opened up that document, and I saw that he had made $1.2 million in 2014 for Burisma.
Once the data transfer was complete, Mac Isaac made several attempts to contact Hunter. He didn't respond. Shortly thereafter, on April 25, 2019, Joe announced his third run for president.
The single most important thing we have to accomplish is defeat Donald Trump.
The Biden family is ready, and we will do this as we always have, as a family.
But one member was missing.
By this stage, Hunter's gone back to California. He ends up meeting his current wife.
Her name, Melissa Cohen, a South African filmmaker, and things move fast, really fast.
The woman I took to be Melissa glanced my way and flashed a bright smile. Easy smile. It floored me. An hour later, Melissa said she was in love with me.
Within a week, they were married. Shortly thereafter, Hunter was hit with a paternity suit from the 28-year-old stripper who bore his child.
She files for parental support from him, and he at first denies paternity. Tests prove that that is in fact his child.
In March 2020, Hunter and Melissa had their own child, a son named Beau. Meantime, Hunter still hadn't returned any of John Paul Mac Isaac's calls about the laptop.
He did sign an authorization. It clearly states at the bottom of the authorization that products left at the shop after 90 days become the Mac shop's property. When Joe announced his candidacy, I started to notice a lot in the news revolving around Burisma and Hunter Biden's involvement. I was concerned because I had seen the name Burisma multiple times, usually attached to a considerably large amount of money. By mid-July, it became my property.
At the time, the country was finally hearing all about Hunter's Ukrainian energy deals.
The company was owned by a pro-Russian Ukrainian oligarch. Once again, Hunter, zero experience in Ukraine, zero experience in oil, gas, but was paid millions of dollars.
Mac Isaac realized the laptop might contain key evidence.
I spent about a month and a half researching Burisma and the contents of the laptop. And at this point, I felt like there was enough here that I needed to get this to the authorities.
Mac Isaac met with FBI agents, but they seemed in no rush to take action.
I think that was my first indication that maybe the FBI was more interested in returning the laptop to the former owner and protecting the Bidens, and they were protecting me, or getting this to the proper channels.
He needed a new strategy and reached out to those he felt could help.
I identified myself as Bob Costello, Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. I've seen the email that you sent to Rudy's attention. I'm interested if you've obtained that material legally.
Mac Isaac sent Costello a copy of the hard drive.
There is a massive amount of material here that's very damaging to Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Jim Biden. It's not stuff that you would ever want to see the light of day if you were any of those people.
It was pretty quiet for a while dealing with Bob. We were just kind of waiting. That changed when Senator Grassley and Johnson released their Hunter Biden Burisma report.
We found that they engaged in potential criminal financial deals across the globe, including China, which created counterintelligence concerns.
With few journalists actually looking into the problems caused by the international business dealings of people in Joe Biden's family, you had a couple of senators look into it, and they end up putting out a really exhaustive and helpful report. And it's not based on rumors or speculation. They go through Treasury Department documents and other government documents to show what was happening in this Biden family business.
Chuck Grassley and I were falsely accused of soliciting and then disseminating Russian disinformation. Nothing could be further from the truth.
They wanted to detract from the damage that it might do to the Biden candidacy for the presidency of the United States. But you saw possible criminal activity. You saw great concerns about national security. You soon found out that maybe Dad knows more about his son's business. They didn't report anything.
The fake news, where is Hunter? Where's Hunter? Hunter's in a foreign country, taking in $25 million today.
In one debate, I remember Joe Biden was asked about this $3.5 million that Hunter received from the wife of the former Moscow mayor, and he said, "Oh, that's been debunked."
The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
You've asked your question, let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? But no, Mr. President, Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited.
It hasn't been debunked at all. It was a government document that showed this.
Though the media largely dismissed the Senate report, Mac Isaac did not.
I realized that the report was missing some vital information about how that money was earned and what was that money paying for. I reached out to Senator Ron Johnson's website.
When somebody's offering you something like that, there's a real responsibility to fully vet information. We go to the FBI, who knew all about it. They wouldn't tell us squat. Now, as we went through the vetting process, I'm starting to think that's either a really good Russian intel product, or that's Hunter Biden's computer. And I think now everybody agrees that's Hunter Biden's computer.
While Johnson's team vetted the laptop's contents, Bob Costello tried to find a media outlet to publish the material.
He sent me some of just astonishing photographs of Hunter Biden from the laptop. One famous one of Hunter asleep with a crack pipe in his mouth, and other photographs. There was an extraordinary treasure trove there.
When the Post reached out to Hunter for comment, Mac Isaac's phone rang.
I get a phone call and I answer it, and it's a gentleman, George Merceris, who announced himself as Hunter Biden's lawyer. And he was asking if I was still in possession of some equipment that Hunter had left back in 2017. I told him, can you send me your credentials so I know that I'm allowed to talk to who I'm talking to and you represent the customer? He agreed, and I received an email shortly thereafter asking basically to check into the status of the equipment and acknowledging the phone call. I went to bed that night very, very restless.
We published on October 14, 3 weeks before the election.
When the New York Post broke the news about Hunter Biden's laptop, a lot of people were interested in it because it had pictures and lurid details about Hunter Biden's drug issues, prostitution, and other crazy living. And it also showed that Joe Biden was a part of this Hunter Biden family business. And it was explosive. Many people in the media freak out and try to figure out how they can suppress the story. It has the potential to completely reshape the race. And I think everybody knew that. Facebook puts out a notice saying that they are going to artificially suppress the story until they can have some fact checkers put on it. Fact checkers who never arrive. Twitter, I mean, they suppress it so much, you can't even share a link to the New York Post. And if you did, you would be kicked off Twitter.
Big tech put their thumb on the scale, and they decided, without any knowledge, without examining any information themselves, that the laptop was a story that people should not hear about.
Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden.
Some dismissing the laptop seized on the 2020 catchphrase, Russian disinformation.
This information Rudy Giuliani is peddling very well could be connected to some sort of Russian government disinformation campaign.
I'm no Russian agent. I'm a former federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. I'm the furthest thing you could have to a Russian agent. This stuff is genuine. I understand why they want to run away from it, but you can't run away from reality.
Joe Biden himself, his campaign, never disputed that the laptop was Hunter Biden's. They knew it was Hunter Biden's laptop.
The October surprise didn't stop Joe Biden from being elected America's 46th president.
It ended up coming down to 43,000 votes across 3 states. When you're dealing with an election that close, every little thing can have a huge impact.
And now Hunter Biden, as the president's son, was positioned to cash in like never before. But would he dare?
You would think that after all of the scandals that Hunter Biden would just want to lie low.
Laying low doesn't seem to be an option. There are ongoing discoveries into business dealings between himself and China.
He is still a partner with the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, has been asked on numerous occasions since President Biden got into the Oval Office, when is Hunter Biden going to get rid of his share in this company, BHR? And always her answer is he's in the process of divesting himself of that shareholding, but it never happens.
For decades, Hunter's improbable run in banking, lobbying, and hedge funds had critics shaking their heads. But his latest venture was a thumb in their eyes.
After President Biden is elected, Hunter Biden comes up with a new career, this time art. He makes art and he sells it for a massive amount of money.
The Hunter Biden art scheme, as I call it, is genius-level corruption. The art world is rife with money laundering. Art is subjective. Art is in the eye of the beholder. I read recently a British artist sold an invisible piece of art to somebody for $20,000. So, you can put a value on it whatever you want. And that's really what the Bidens have done. Hunter Biden is selling these works of arts for up to $500,000, which goes for more than some of the grand masters out there.
Hunter Biden the painter. Has Hunter Biden finally found his true calling? Is he the equal of Picasso and Van Gogh? Or have the Bidens simply launched perhaps the most brazen grift in the history of American politics? We reached out to Hunter for this story. He didn't respond. Miranda Devine has her opinion.
It shows corruption at the highest level of the American government. It shows a corrupt enterprise that has been going on in Delaware for decades by the Biden family, which Joe Biden, when he was vice president, internationalized around the world and therefore put America's national security at risk. It has compromised America.
And the Hunter Biden saga is not over yet.
If the Biden story is a Shakespeare play, like Macbeth, but we are at the midway point. We continue to go through the Hunter Biden laptop, and of course you have the President of the United States, Joe Biden, who is himself making unpredictable decisions as it pertains to American national security. All of that, I think, combines to a very dramatic, and I would argue very troubling, finish to this story.
So much of the Hunter Biden story is still unfolding, with the remaining pages blank, unwritten. Joe Biden remains president. Hunter Biden still has access to political power and continues to escape scrutiny. With new revelations regarding his business dealings and personal life continuing to unfold, we await the closing chapter of this story. As Hunter himself said in his memoir, "I'm not going anywhere." Well, Hunter, neither are we.